Today's camera is this one here, a Canon AV-1, which is a entry-level 35mm SLR released by Canon in 1979. The reason I got this camera is because I wanted the 50mm lens that it came with. I had been looking for this lens for a while, and the reason for that is because I had a Canon AE-1 but not very interesting lenses. I had two Tamron adaptable zoom lenses, which were also not in very good condition, so I wanted something a bit more like reliable to be able to test the camera a bit better. So I happened to find this camera with the lens I've been looking for quite a good price in a flea market, so I decided to get them both. And also I decided to actually use this camera to try it and see and compare it to the Canon AE-1. Now the biggest difference between the Canon AE-1 and the AV-1 is that the AE-1 has shutter priority and full manual mode. This camera does not have full manual mode. It has, well, aperture priority and full automatic. Compared to other 35mm SLRs from the time, the AV-1 is very comparable. I mean, you have the same way of advancing the film, taking picture, opening the back and loading film, rewinding film. There's nothing strange about it really. It's very comparable and easy to use. It has some special features, for example this backlight compensation button here on the side. And what it does is basically to overexpose by 1.5 stop. So if you need a little bit more exposure in your scene, if you have, like, for example, a snowy scene, I use it for some snowy scenes and it worked quite well for getting a good exposure. On top here there's one more small button, and that is for checking the battery. On the shutter dial there are 5 different settings. Well, first of all we have the bulb mode to keep the shutter open. Then there is the flash sync speed of 1/60th of a second. Then the automatic mode, automatic shutter. And then there are 2 different self-timer modes, one without flash and one with flash, if you happen to use a flash, that is. And the self-timer can be interrupted by pressing the battery check button, so if you regret your composition or something, you can always, or put it on by mistake, for example, then you can cancel it. In the viewfinder, it shows what shutter speed the camera will use when taking a picture, so it is quite useful for seeing how the camera exposes the scene. I have shot one roll of Foam-Pan 100 with this camera, and well, the results are very consistent. The exposures are very nice. I mean, nothing weird over or underexposed. I shot all the photos with a 50mm lens that came with the camera, and it's quite good. I mean, the results are quite sharp and consistent, so it's a nice lens. Small and cheap as well. The camera itself is very light and easy to bring with you, and since it's not very expensive either, it doesn't suck that much if you happen to break it, but still of course it would suck because you might lose your photos. When it comes to bad things about the camera, well, there are some things I noticed. For example, this shutter button tends to be a bit light. Sometimes actually a few times when I was measuring the light to see if there was enough light to take a picture, I pressed it fully by mistake, even though I tended to press it just halfway. So there's something to be like a bit careful about. Actually, there is a clear distinction between it, but I don't know. It's very fine distinction between half press and full press. So, and the other strange thing I noticed is that when using the full auto mode, it tends to choose a bit strange settings. I was using it in, well, basically strong sunlight, and still it wanted to use 1/30th of a second. So it would have had to close down the aperture quite a lot for that. And also if you use a longer lens, that would be a way too slow shutter speed. So after noticing that, I only used the aperture priority mode and not the full auto anymore on this camera. So yeah, but not a big deal either, I would say. So would I recommend this camera? Well, of course, it depends on what your needs are. If you're looking for your first 35mm camera or first 35mm SLR, well then, it's a good choice, I would say. You can always get a better, like Canon FD camera afterwards if you don't like this one or want more advanced features. I mean, the lenses are quite good for it also. Now, of course, here I have to, well, be transparent about my own bias, and I'm not a very big fan of the Canon FD era lenses and cameras. I prefer Nikon and Minolta from this time. Also maybe Olympus, but this is not a bad choice. The difference between these different brands from this time is not that big. They're quite similar when it comes to function and results. There are some features that differ and so on. You just have to, well, find out your own preferences and design your choice after that, I suppose. Anyway, I think I have said enough for this video. Thank you for watching, and if you have any questions about this camera, you can always ask. Thank you for watching, and see you next time. Bye.